This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the best way to make an amazing website. A lot of you guys have been asking us to test the performance of the 16-inch MacBook Pro when connected to an eGPU, so here it is. And we're also going to compare it to our $15,000 Mac Pro to see how this much less expensive eGPU setup will fare. We're also making this video because we've seen countless people buying eGPUs for certain tasks that don't even gain any extra performance from it. I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. In the video we posted just yesterday, we compared the graphics performance of the top 3 AMD graphics cards, and we ended up choosing the $370 RX 5700 XT for this test. If you want to know why we chose that card, make sure to check out that video at the end of this one. For our eGPU enclosure, we went with the $300 Razer Core X, which has proven itself as very reliable, bringing the total price of this eGPU to $670. Now before we jump into our testing, here are the specs of each of these Macs. We ended up upgrading the RAM ourselves on the Mac Pro, so that saved us a couple $1,000s. If you want to see how we did that, check out our DIY RAM upgrade guide at the end of this video. Since our Mac Pro has a 12-core processor, there's a difference in processing power, but we're mostly going to focus on graphics performance. Starting off our testing with Geekbench 5's metal test, the eGPU helps the 16-inch MacBook Pro get around 2 times more raw graphics power, but the Mac Pro still scored around 54% higher than the eGPU. Moving on to Unigine's Heaven benchmark, which simulates real-world gaming performance, the Mac Pro got around 38% more FPS than the 5700 XT. Now for the Blender benchmark, which runs the BMW in classroom rendering tests, the eGPU surprisingly beats out the Mac Pro. The reason for this is because the 5700 XT is built on AMD's latest Navi graphics architecture, compared to the Mac Pro's Vega 2 card, which is using the older Vega tech. But it's still not too far behind because it has so much raw power. Now getting into video editing with Final Cut Pro, get ready for some shocking results that I bet none of you are expecting. In the 5K Bruce X benchmark, the Mac Pro wipes the floor with the eGPU setup, finishing over 3 times faster than the 57. But here's the shocker, the 16-inch MacBook Pro is actually faster by itself compared to using an eGPU. This probably makes no sense at all to you guys, especially if you're spending almost $700 for an eGPU setup, so let me explain what's happening here, right after this word from our sponsor, Squarespace. If you've been thinking about making your own website, Squarespace is seriously the best way to go. I built an engaging website for my wife's cleaning business with literally no webmaking experience. You just choose a template, customize blocks of text and images, and easily move them around. It's incredibly simple, affordable, and it's been running flawlessly for over 2 years, bringing in new clients thanks to its built-in SEO tools. So whether you're making a website for a small business or literally anything else, go to squarespace.com for a free trial and use our custom link below when you're ready to launch to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Now let's get back to why the eGPU is giving us worse performance in this test. Because the graphics card in an eGPU is set up externally, there are some major inefficiencies in certain graphics tests. First off, all of the graphics data has to go through the Thunderbolt 3 cable to reach the MacBook Pro, which ends up limiting performance. On top of that, for certain tests like Bruce X, the graphics card and processor need to communicate with each other, so graphics data is constantly going back and forth within the same cable at the same time. This means that the Thunderbolt 3 cable's data bandwidth gets cut in half, which doesn't happen for things like gaming since data only goes one way, from the MacBook Pro to the eGPU and then to the display. It doesn't have to go back and forth like it does in Bruce X, so be aware that in some tests, an eGPU can actually kill your performance. To further prove my point, check out the results from this 5-minute 4K H.264 export, which is the most common format that YouTubers use for their videos. The MacBook Pro by itself finished almost twice as fast compared to using the eGPU, which is again due to the inefficiencies of using the graphics card externally. But the story is actually not the same for all of the tests we ran. We stabilized a 30-second Canon RAW 60p clip, and the eGPU greatly helped the performance of the MacBook Pro, because in this test, data doesn't have to travel back and forth within the same cable. The performance was so good that it was only 2 seconds behind the Mac Pro, which is really impressive. Next, we exported a 5-minute version of the same Canon RAW clip, And yet again, the MacBook Pro was faster by itself, and the Mac Pro ends up way ahead, proving itself in this test. Not only that, but the Mac Pro is capable of playing this raw footage back at 95 frames per second compared to around 58 with the eGPU, which is finally an improvement over the MacBook Pro by itself. We then exported a 5-minute 30 frames per second HEVC clip, and both machines actually finished in exactly the same time. And that's because they're both taking advantage of Apple's T2 chip and its dedicated HEVC encoding, which is actually limited to 60 frames per second, or exactly 2 minutes and 30 seconds for a 5-minute clip. With the eGPU, the data has to get sent to it to decode, and then back to the MacBook Pro's T2 chip to encode, so it ends up taking twice as long. Now let's move on to some of the more extreme tests in Final Cut Pro, starting with the 5-minute 5K red raw to 4K export. Here, the Mac Pro wipes the floor with the MacBook Pro, finishing around 3 times faster because this footage is extremely dependent on processor performance, which is lacking on the MacBook Pro's 8-core CPU. Moving on, we decided to throw in some ProRes RAW tests as well, since our Mac Pro features the $2,000 Afterburner card. We started off by exporting a 5-minute 4K ProRes RAW clip, and the Mac Pro finished over 3 times faster thanks to the Afterburner. In this test, the eGPU actually helps out a bit, but not enough to make it worth it. Now running the same test but with an 8K clip, we see pretty much the same results, with the Mac Pro finishing around 3 times faster, but we do see a bigger improvement with the eGPU. As far as timeline playback, the Mac Pro with the Afterburner card can run 4 streams of 8K 24p ProRes RAW footage all at the same time, which amounts to 96 frames per second total. The MacBook Pro can't even handle 1 stream at full speed, only being able to run it at 19 frames per second, or 22 if you add the eGPU, but it's still shy of the perfect 24 frames per second playback. Now without the Afterburner card, even the fully spec'd out $53,000 Mac Pro can only handle 3 streams of this footage, so Afterburner is a must-buy for anyone who's working with ProRes footage and is considering a Mac Pro. Now moving on to DaVinci Resolve 16, we exported the same 5-minute Canon RAW clip, and the Mac Pro finished over twice as fast as the MacBook Pro. And here, the eGPU didn't help at all. Now testing timeline playback in the same test, the eGPU greatly killed the performance of the MacBook, and the Mac Pro is capable of getting over 4 times the FPS. We then tested 4K Blackmagic raw noise reduction, and this time, the eGPU helped a lot, getting close to double the FPS, but of course, nowhere near the speed of the Mac Pro. And finally, there's one task that you absolutely should not buy an eGPU for, and that's photo editing. We exported 500 raw images to JPEG, and the eGPU did literally nothing at all for the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And the Mac Pro was much quicker because of the better CPU and more RAM. Now all of these results might shock you, seeing as the eGPU actually made the MacBook slower in a lot of the tests, but keep in mind that we're using the latest 16-inch MacBook Pro that is quite a bit faster than the previous 15-inch models. And that's before you consider the newer technology and encoders. So based on all of these tests, there are really only 2 reasons why you should buy an eGPU for your 16-inch MacBook Pro. One is if you want to do some gaming, as we saw a major boost in gaming performance, and 2 is if you're doing graphics rendering like using Blender, as we saw a doubling in performance. But for everything else, it's honestly not really worth it. And the Mac Pro, of course, is a different beast at a very different price point. But the MacBook Pro still fares extremely well, considering the lower price and it being portable, so it makes a lot more sense for most people. If this video helped you out, tap the like button, click the circle above to subscribe, and check out those 2 videos that I mentioned earlier in this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.